Alex Bratton, the Chief Geek of Lextech here, and I am thrilled to have Dipesh from our partner Stratix with me today on Spatial Conversations. Welcome, Dipesh.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited that we can start diving into really thinking about the future of spatial computing. And where I'd like to start with that is maybe a little bit of grounding today of what excites you the most about spatial computing where we are right now.
So, what excites me the most about spatial computing would definitely be how we're going to be able to use this to train people in new and more immersive environments than they probably have been without spending the huge amounts of dollars of travel and the big simulators, etc.
I've heard great things about that as well, about that just being able to bypass travel and get into that immersive environment for muscle memory training and those kind of things. So you're hearing that from folks that that's something they're very excited about now?
Absolutely. We're hearing it from some of our largest customers, of course, in the airline industry, but also in some of the other industries, such as train transportation and railways, etc.
Got it. So, and that's interesting because that's not necessarily office work. That's more industrial. That's big equipment. That's things where I can't just ship something to you. You have to come to me.
Absolutely. It's also areas where lots of safety comes into play with how well they know to do their job. Now, I will admit the customers we deal with, where we deal with a lot, is in that kind of environment. We don't have too many office workers ourselves, but the people who are actually using these things to make money, to make sure that they're doing their jobs well, those are our customers. And we're seeing if there's a safety, if there is a bit of the muscle memory, as you said, if there is complexity that may change from one implementation to the next, that's where these things are coming and being useful for them.
I love it. That makes it real. So when we look at other uses of the Vision Pro in spatial computing today, so making this a little personal for you at the moment, what's jumped out at you as something that you've seen personal value using spatial computing in the Vision Pro so far?
So, I mean, I personally like this as a relaxation tool. You know, those immersive environments are really nice. But augmenting my Mac and actually having that bigger screen when I need it,
Oh
in
yeah.
particular around travel, I can't take a big screen with me when I'm traveling into hotels or things of that nature. Being able to utilize this and do that, it actually, it does take a little bit of getting used to being able to train my hands and work on it, but it has worked quite well.
Nice. And I love that virtual Mac environment myself for whether it's the coding side of things or we've even seen that for pair programming and things like that. Have you had a chance to do much in the way of the collaboration side of things yet?
No, honestly not. I've taken a few FaceTime calls with my family, with some coworkers, things of that nature, but nothing huge in terms of like what we're doing here. This is a new one for me.
So what do you think of the studio?
I love it. This is a great experience. I do feel like obviously you're not physically right there next to me, but I could definitely turn to you, and that is a very nice interaction. Now, having the cameras, having the background, this does make it feel a little bit more than just I'm sitting in my office. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't see my office, even though I'm still in my office. So that sort of like I'm in the moment, I'm in the experience. Again, you really can't beat it.
I love that. And we've had a chance to do a webinar together and some other things. And for me, this is the exciting of this is the future. So
Mm.
webinars don't have to be that flat squares on a screen. We can actually interact and do the fist bump here. We can actually, I don't know if
Let's
you've done
try
them yet.
that.
Let's do it. So you do that and
There we
see,
go.
look at that. So,
Nice.
but that kind of interaction is just so exciting. And it's, again, it's new for everybody. That's the
Oh
part
yeah.
that's fun about this. Um, so when you start looking at, so we talked about some of the customers there. When folks are coming in to talk to you, not just about the use case itself, but the things that they're thinking about of what might be holding them back or the challenges they see with adopting a new platform like
Mhm.
this, what kind of things have surfaced for you?
Well, of course, there is the price. That's always the conversation, right? You have to have that. And then I think when we talked about this in our last webinar, being able to utilize a lot of the same investment they do on their iPhones, their iPads, and then into the Vision Pro is a good conversation, though it's not necessarily what we want to promote. But then there's also the ability to make sure that they have enough that they're able to get it out to the users when it's appropriate and how it's appropriate. Then that doesn't become another logistics nightmare that when they're trying to solve one, that it doesn't become another. So that's a conversation we do have a good amount.
Got it. Now, when it comes to obviously one of the cores and value that you guys bring is helping folks really manage fleets of devices and
Mhm.
bringing the end user experience really all the way out to the management side of things. Where do you think that goes with regard to the Vision Pro? How are you helping folks think about bringing these out to their teams?
Yeah, so these are starting to fall more into, we do for some of our larger retail customers, some of our larger aviation customers, basically kits that go out for events. And these are starting to fall into that realm where we will have a pre-packaged kit of devices ready to go out and get sent. So the fleets aren't quite as large, but they are physically larger than just a small device because they may have the Vision Pro, they may have Mac, they may have other stuff that goes out at the same time. So those kits are becoming the conversation. There's not 20,000, 100,000 of them going out, but there
Yeah.
is, tens, maybe even hundreds of them going out. So the physical size of it becomes a consideration for everybody there. But then, of course, when they get back, making sure everything is wiped and ready to go for the next use of that kit, whether that means, making sure that they don't have the Apple IDs on them and all that sort of stuff gets taken care of before they're redeployed and being able to use like that. Or making sure that all the other pieces, if there is any scratches or damage, that it gets taken care of before the device goes out again.
So with those kits that you're sending out to folks to kind of again empower folks, whether it's the individual or for an event, knowing that the essentially the eyewear side of things, I wear glasses, so I've got the inserts.
Mhm.
How are you guys thinking about or managing getting those inserts to folks as a part of that process?
Yeah, the ones that we've been doing so far have been fairly standardized at like
Hmm.
the it's not the large ones. So we haven't had too much of a negative feedback on that element. Of course, it's for smaller kinds of use cases or like time periods, so it's not permanent. If these were going to stay with the people permanently, I think we would have had a lot more feedback of, hey, this doesn't fit. We need to make sure it gets done correctly, as is recommended, of course. But for that temporary use case of making sure that they're able to get in, utilize it, it hasn't been a problem to be sort of in the middle of the road.
Got it. So when we look at again, this is a today relatively expensive piece of gear.
Mhm.
And looking back, and thinking back even into the Apple stores when folks thought Apple was nuts to put an iPhone in the hands of a salesperson, that oh they're just going to break it compared to the old scanners that folks would have in there. Are you are you seeing that we might get some of the same behaviors we had then of yes it was more expensive but because it was the personal device or because of the experience that people took different kind of care of it? Does that fit, or are you worried about the folks just beating the heck out of them?
We are worried about that. Our few very few customers, obviously, that are doing these so far are very worried about that. Again, we haven't had that experience. I think because it is so new in the technology, I'm not to the point where I will say that's not a concern. People are taking care of it. I think as they become more comfortable with it, everybody becomes a little bit more free to do what they think and with the exception of running into a wall, maybe that is when it's new. But overall, as you get comfortable with something, you probably take not as good care of your iPhone now as you did when you first got it. So I think that's where, we will see the breakage rates start to increase and things of that nature. We haven't seen it yet, though.
Okay, well that's good to hear. So if we flip around and we start looking a little bit more toward the future,
Hmm.
so whether it's the Vision Pro of today or the Vision Pro or just the Vision of tomorrow, um, anything that jumps out at you that this can help some of the employees of your customers do in just different ways?
Mm. In different ways. I mean, outside of training, obviously, which we've been talking about. Um, No, I can't say that I've got anything that has really jumped out in that way, in a different way. I think, you are seeing the other options coming out, where it's whether it's the more regular glasses looking or things of that nature. Those are keeping the conversation going, making people think of how is this different and how can this be used more effectively for what it is, compared to what could that be used for, what that be used for. So I think people are still trying to take a look at it and say, hey, what is the right device in the right use case for those reasons? This one, obviously, with the immersive technology, the spatial computing element of it, has its uses. I don't think that everybody's revamping everything yet because everybody's still looking for which one is going to be actually right for that use case.
Got it. And so talking about some of that other equipment that's existed, and it's existed for years,
Mhm.
um, have you had customers, I'll just say very pointedly, apply augmented reality or virtual reality equipment and actually get decent business results out of it? Not just
We
use
have,
it, but okay,
I could say we have not directly. Some of our customers have had small successes with them, but not in the kind of scales where they need a company like Stratix to be participating. So to me, that says, okay, your business is not actually running on that. It's working for you, but it's not going to impact you when it's down, essentially.
got it. It's not core. It's not the
Right.
powering a key workforce.
Exactly right.
Okay, yeah, it's still experiment at that
Hmm.
point. Got it. Well, let's talk a second about Stratix. So when we
Sure.
you look at really, you guys have done a bunch of different things with a bunch of really interesting customers. What really is the thing that you guys are best at? If you had to boil it all down, what would that be for folks?
I was just actually doing this. We're hiring all the time, and I have to describe all the time to people of why is this different than what you see with others? What makes us truly unique? And what I've come down to, my understanding, is lots of people claim to do large deployments. Lots of people even claim to do, repairs and things of that nature. We take it to the step of not only can we do the large deployment of 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, whatever it
Mm,
is, but when it comes to the small regular deployments of you've got a new restaurant opening and you need 20 iPads there, or you've got a new higher class for your pilots coming on board and you need 100 iPads that are ready to go to be individually assigned and you need 3 Vision Pros to go out. We do those regular smaller orders so well, and it's always at the same level. I think that's where we truly exceed some of our biggest competition. And then on the other side of that, when it comes to the actual repair, we we seem to have a leg up, and I can't explain why we should, but we do seem to have a leg up on consistently getting out devices that are ready for business. Whereas others may get out a device that is, the end user could set up. We get out a device that is set up for that end user to just go straight to business. And I think that is a differentiator. And being able to bring it all together really meets the needs of mobility in a full life cycle way for customers that depend on it, that rely on it for their either for their mission or for their revenue.
And I love that statement, the for business. And I think that's why our two teams work so well together because it's
Mhm.
really about how are we helping those folks in that organization be productive and drive those business values. And they have to have the right support and the right equipment to make it happen. I love that.
Mhm.
So let's get a little personal for a moment.
Sure.
So when it comes to your role and the kind of things you're getting to get your hands really into nowadays, what kind of stuff are you working on?
Hmm. Well, I love doing things like this. We do have a lot of OEM partners. Apple is definitely one of the best ones to work with. And when we get to do these sorts of Apple Vision Pro, experiment with the new stuff that's coming out, this is amazing.
Mm,
We do have other partners that are going into other areas, whether it be RFID, computer vision, AI. These are all very big topics for us. So, because we have such large customers, such interesting ways of helping people operationalize technology, we do get to get our hands into a lot of that early on. So, those are the things that, especially now, where everybody wants to make sure that they're using their money to differentiate in the right ways. So, we're getting to get in there, work with them, and say, hey, here's what's going to be needed to make this operationally viable.
mm. I
So,
love
all
that.
those,
Helping them think that through and make it real.
absolutely, yeah.
Nice.
And so that's one of the most for me. I love doing that, and like I said, playing with new technology is always fun.
Well, so talking new technologies,
Hmm.
you mentioned those two magic letters, AI.
Hmm.
So if we take AI and we combine it with spatial computing and some of what we're doing here, anything jump out at you where we might see those two cross and start to drive value for folks in the
Sure.
future?
Yeah, I mean, and so when I'm thinking AI, these days we're talking a lot about large language models, where you're doing analysis of what's out there, the knowledge that's out there, and bringing it together to answer questions in natural language. But also the computer vision. That's the other big area right now for AI. So when you combine that in the spatial vision, I think the voice assistants that we've traditionally had that have brought us like sort of that one-dimensional answer or did the one-dimensional thing. I think this sort of spatial concept could bring it much more fully. If I could ask a question, learn something, and not only get the text about why the Roman Empire fell or what the Colosseum was all about, but actually all of a sudden get an immersive experience and for like a 2 minute educational tutorial on that in real. I mean, I think that's where AI may actually be able to be, maybe a deep fake of the world, but also maybe a very good way of expressing the ideas that previously it was just speaking out to us.
Got it. So we have our quote of the day, a deep fake of the world. Thank you.
Exactly.
Well, Dipesh, thank you. This has been awesome, and appreciate you jumping into Spatial Conversations with us. Thank you.
Appreciate it as well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.